The battle against inequality has begun. The battle against the 1% that's gradually taking over the world. And the first victories have been won. Not in the political debate, not in the tent camps of the Occupy movement, but in the old working-class neighbourhoods in England. Here on the football grounds, fans have started the battle to take back their clubs from the hands of the Russian oligarchs, Malaysian billionaires, and the hedge funds that have got hold of them. In the Netherlands too, soccer fans are voicing their protests against the selling of their clubs. This is what the future has in store for you.
Business is after our cash. We should be using our cash to protect our football clubs, not to line the pockets of big business.
Je kunt er niks aan doen. Het blijft jouw club, maar het is wel een kutclub geworden.
This is VPRO Backlight. Welcome to the kickoff. About 200 years ago, during the Industrial Revolution, the game of football was introduced to the population of England's cities. At the time, factory owners saw football as a means of pacifying the masses, who could be quite rebellious. But it soon became a part of popular culture, and those who played it learned to reclaim it and organised themselves into clubs, making the game an instrument of working-class social cohesion.
It's about people coming together to gather as a community, to express their identity. Football fans define themselves by the football club that they follow, by their fellow fans, by the people they go to the game with. And we're no different in England than people are in Holland or in Italy, Spain, France, Germany, any country in the world. You define yourself by the football club that you follow. It means the style of play, the colour of the shirt, it means the songs that we've got that bear witness to our traditions and our history. And that's what makes it so intoxicating for people to go and watch, but it also makes it so attractive for big business to come and stick their badge on any shirt or on any football ground so that they can then get some of that reflected glory and hopefully pick up some of the cash from the supporters who follow the clubs.
Here, in the working-class neighbourhoods of England, where football was once a bonding factor, clubs have now been privatised, commercialised and taken over by hedge funds and oligarchs. Is social cohesion something that can be bought and sold? Manchester is the second largest city of England. The city enjoys 2 Premiership football clubs. One of them, Manchester United, went public in 1990 and was the subject of takeover bids from property traders. In 2005, the Glazers, an American billionaire family, moved in to buy enough shares to take over the club.
All right, so bell me when you get into the ground. You're in the main stand then. Cheers, bye. Hello. Michael.
Andy Walsh was at the head of the Man United Supporters Association that led a campaign to prevent the Glazers from taking over the club.
The Glazers moved in to buy out the different groups of shareholders, and the rest of it, sadly, is history. You know, even at the 11th hour, we were in discussions with merchant banks about them lending money to a supporters consortium. The Glazers knew about that. So did Magnay McManus, and we were in conversations with Magnay McManus's people in Ireland about the possibility of them selling their shares to us, and we got assurances from them that they would sell the shares to the fans and not to Glazers. Glazers upped the price, Magnay McManus took the price, and sadly, there's nothing we could do about that.
To be able to buy Manchester United, the Glazers took out a mortgage of around £275 million on the club's assets. This meant that for the first time since 1931, the club was in debt. The opposition to the Glazer takeover continued, and there have been constant protests and anti-Glazer campaigns. The fans feel that the debt is a danger to the club and has a negative influence on the club's culture and performance.
Supporters then felt that they didn't want to be taken for granted, and they called for a boycott. If all they're bothered about is our cash and not our opinions, not our history, not our traditions, then we'll stop them having our cash. We can't stop them taking the football club, but we can stop them taking our soul, and that's what we did. And the idea of a fan-owned football club then again came to the fore.
Once the takeover was final, a group of 4,000 anti-Glazer fans decided to go their own way and start a new club. The new club is owned by its members and is registered as FC United of Manchester. Currently, they play in the 3rd division of the semi-professional English League.
We're all FC. Most of us are there because we no longer go to United. Well, that was the hardest thing in the world to do, come away from your club, because you don't leave a club. But me personally, I'd already really stopped before, well before Glazer. I wouldn't say exactly, because I don't know, because it was a long time ago, but my season ticket went up from, say, £50 to £85. Something dramatic like that, nearly doubled, and I just went, I just can't do it. There's no way I can justify paying that money when you've got a family and you can't take them. That was my biggest thing, more than the money. The money just topped the final straw. It was the idea that, I know it's changed and things do change, but literally the buses used to pass here. I mean, we're 3.5 miles away from Old Trafford, and buses used to come down from the Gardeners Arms of a Special 88. And you're away at the Ben Briley and they pick you up and your kids and your family. Your granddad was with you, your dad was with you. There was the family thing and everybody went to football.
At the Soccer X, the international convention of the football business world in Manchester, we meet David Conn, a sports reporter from The Guardian. In 2007, he wrote a book called The Football Business.
Not that English football wasn't a business before, it was, and the clubs were in fact limited companies with shareholders before that, but in general the owners, the shareholders, the directors weren't necessarily in it to make money. There wasn't a lot of money to be made, and after the money all poured in from pay television and the Premier League breakaway in the early 1990s, then those owners, those mainly English owners, cashed in by floating the clubs on the stock market or by selling the clubs. And I think when there was a run of sales of the top clubs to overseas investors of different kinds, it took everyone by surprise. It wasn't planned, and it's a massive, massive cultural change to a great sport without enough of a critique and with an opposition, as you will find, by supporters who don't have anything like the resources that the people have who they're maybe opposing.
If you come along with me, with the lads in Carmagee, we're FC United. Once you're here, no regrets, there's no Glazers, there's no debts. Think of all the fun you get, following FC United. In our division we'll play hard, we won't ever stop. And we'll climb right up these leagues until we get right to the top. I'll buy you one, you'll buy me. We'll be bladdered when it's 3, but I know just where we'll be. For FC United, cause it's our club, it's our rules that don't ever stop. To sign up for your memberships.
One of the challenges faced by the young club was to find a home ground. At the moment, they share a stadium with Bury Football Club. But after years of fundraising, they have now begun to build their own ground in Moston, a working-class neighbourhood in Manchester.
We've now got the opportunity to create a stadium and a football ground that's befitting of our football club. It's a 12.5-acre site. We've got a full-size artificial pitch. We've got offices, a medical suite where we can not just treat players, but we've also got sufficient capacity to offer medical services to people in the local area on a drop-in basis. So we've got a real opportunity now to show what this football club's all about.
Yeah, where are we going now? We're going to the ground. Come on. Where are we going? Hey? Where are we going? No. Can you hear anything? At school. Oh, yeah, that's it. You hear it? Yeah? It's a lawnmower, I think, cutting the grass. I don't think it's a diggers. No, not dig, not yet. You get to the ground, they dig into it. The thing with Moston is I've lived here all my life, and I consider Moston to be working class. However, now I've looked about and seen the way the place is, it probably is very, very poor. And there's something ridiculous, like 96% of people are on benefits. I think it's going to be bigger than I've realised, because watching the ground go up, I can more or less see it from my bedroom window. There's just the money that'll come in. The little cafe's going to be full, just on match days. The bars are, because the bars now are not making a great deal of money because people don't go out. Because of the current climate, because of things that are happening, you can't let your kids out like you used to do. But on match days, and it's in a lovely area, all them kids are going to be walking up there together. They'll probably go in the park next to it first. So you are going to see your neighbours, you are going to see people. I've got so many friends now just through FC United.
Or the top right-hand corner is close to the away fans. We can have a bit of banter with the away fans.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So why not the top right-hand corner so we can have some banter with the away fans?
What top right-hand corner?
Of the main stand.
I just don't fancy the main stand this year, that's all. I fancy being in my own stand. You can create it, you only need one or two here.
Yeah.
And even if they don't, it's funny. Can you imagine if no one joins in at all? So I'm just stood there on my own with a banner just singing, I'm the North Stand. It's just fun, isn't it? I think Rob Ayres took photographs from the roof last night. Brothers, packed
Me personally, I'm still a Manchester United fan, and I'll be a Manchester United fan till the day I die. But I will not support the business that the Glazers have now transplanted into M16 at Old Trafford. This, for me, is about me pursuing my support as a Manchester United fan, following the traditions of Manchester United. And I will never tell anybody that they've got to give up their support of their football club. What we're trying to do here is show there is an alternative to the current model of ownership. Business is after our cash. We should be using our cash to protect our football clubs, not to line the pockets of big business.
In Coventry, the Sisu hedge fund took over the local football club. Due to a financial conflict, the fund broke the long-standing contract with the Ricoh Arena. The arena has lost its main tenant, and for 16 months, Sisu has been renting Sixfields Stadium in Northampton. This means that Coventry fans have to travel 35 miles to watch a home game. To a different city, a different county, even another region, crossing many psychological borders.
OK, can you imagine if Ajax were taken over by Sisu, and Sisu said, you know, and Ajax don't own their own, if they didn't own their own stadium, and we're going to move them to go and play in Den Haag, or go in Den Haag Stadium, what would happen? I mean, I would imagine that Den Haag Stadium would probably be burnt to the ground, whatever. But would Ajax fans follow Ajax to the Den Haag Stadium?
I think you've got to support a football team and been in part of your life for so long to understand how we feel. We feel bitter, we feel upset, we feel anger. We've had something taken away from us. I've had friendship taken away from me. I've had my Saturday afternoon taken away from me. You know, and I can't forgive these people regardless of when we go back.
I used to think it was my club. It's not. It's been proved now. It's not our club. It's owned by these faceless people from a hedge fund who don't care about the game, don't care about the fans, don't care about anything. They're monsters, absolute monsters. But the last season that we played the Rico, our average crowd was 11,000. They're getting 2,000, just a bit over here. So you work the maths.
We've been let down by so many different people. We've been let down by our owners of our club, we've been let down by our council, we've been let down by the owners of the stadium, and in particular we've been let down by the Football League. They could have sorted this problem out so much quicker.
That's at 35 minutes. Okay, all right.
But somebody somewhere's got to make a decision to get us back to Coventry, because our club has got no future without that. Hello folks, you know about this at 35 minutes?
We don't go to any home games, we don't go to anything inside Sixfields, but we go onto the hill, and there's a hill beside the ground, and we watch the game from there. So I suppose to some degree we're classed as hillers.
What happened in Coventry? Why would a hedge fund want to buy a football club?
Well, at Coventry City, the hedge fund wanted to buy the football club for the same reason that most of the owners, buyers, have come in to buy football clubs, which is they see the money in the Premier League, and it's huge money. And if you can get a club promoted into the Premier League, that huge money is pouring into you. And it's become a movement to buy clubs in the Championship, which is the second division down from the Premier League, because the clubs are a bit cheaper, and 3 get promoted at the end of the season. So you think, we'll spend that bit of money and then we'll get promoted to the Premier League. And now, with the Premier League's massive TV deals, you would make a minimum of £120 million if you won promotion to the Premier League for 1 season. So there is no doubt that is what Sisu were after when they started looking for a football club to buy.
Folks, listen, at 35 minutes, we're just going to hold up the banners, no words, and we've got a piper that's going to do the last post. And then when he finishes, then we'll do our singing, yeah? All right, lads. 35 minutes, 35 minutes.
In the 35th minute, it's time for a combined protest of the Coventry and Cardiff fans who both feel let down by their owners. The Coventry fans, protesting from a hilltop outside the stadium, get support from the Cardiff fans inside, who are also protesting against the decision of their new Malaysian owner to change the club's colours from blue to red.
It's modern football. You've got Coventry playing in Northampton, which is 35 miles away, and you've got Cardiff City, the Bluebirds, playing in red. And that just explains where traditions are not being taken seriously in this country.
Not only have they played in blue, but the club's nickname is the Bluebirds, and it's pretty hard to play in red when you call the Bluebirds. And he did it with some idea that red is a more lucky colour or a more appealing colour to potential fans in the Far East where he's from. I think you have to understand that things like the colour, the badge, the history in every way is a massive part of that sort of precious heritage. They're like, you know, living museums, or, you know, there's something that people feel a great love for. So to come in and change the colour of the kit because you bought it, you bought the club, that seemed to crystallise for a lot of people the culture clash of the modern era of football.
John Beach is a business economist who specialises in sports management and football financing. He has investigated the way professional clubs are managed.
The fans, in a sense, are the innocent victims, and they are virtually powerless in all of this. I mean, the boycott is, I think, an expression of rage rather than that they protest because they are powerless. And if you look around at other clubs, what has happened in desperate situations is supporters' trusts have moved in and taken over, and then there is this moving together of the club as a social construct and the club as a company, and the psychological ownership and the legal ownership come together and they move forward. So I've got a very strong belief in the Supporters' Trust movement. That belief and that commitment has come out of my research. So, you know, I would say it's empirically based. There's an evidence base that has convinced me that is the way forward. The real issue to me and the big problem is how do you make that transition from what is currently mainly benefactor-owned clubs to something more akin to the German model with supporter trust-owned clubs. And Coventry is a classic case where the size of the debt makes that transition almost impossible. At Portsmouth, it happened, but it only just happened because there was a dispute about how big the debt was, and it took a court ruling to bring the debt down to a level where the Supporters' Trust had got enough money to take over the club.
In the seaport town of Portsmouth, the soccer team, known as Pompey, was taken over by its fans following 3 takeovers by foreign owners that led to 2 different administrations in 3 years.
There's other examples where financially motivated owners have not had anything like the money that they promised that they were going to have, or in the case of Portsmouth, they lent money in and then they ran out of money and they had to stop, and then the club was absolutely in total crisis. And Portsmouth were in the FA Cup final. They had world-class players playing for them, and within months they were bust. And it's a really proud club. It's got a really good, strong set of supporters. They could have lost their club completely to that financial wreckage.
Ashley Brown, who once raised his hand in a meeting to become the president of the Supporters Association, has now become the director of the club.
As a fan, you're thinking, you know, here we are again. You know, we've on the pitch had some of our best spells ever in history, but we're in front pages of the newspapers for all the wrong reasons, for fraud, for criminals. You know, previously it's been gun runners, blood diamonds, all people involved in all these sort of activities, assets frozen around the world. We previously owned by a Nepalese Chinaman and an Israeli partnership, and they sell the club on to these supposedly wealthy Russian and Lithuanian.
It was an absolute horror story, and there were things you just couldn't make up. You know, I mean, they had one owner, he was from Saudi Arabia, I think, and he was called Ali Al Faraj, and he never appeared ever at Portsmouth, and he was the owner of the club, and they called him Ali Al Miraj. And, you know, it was just ridiculous. And this was in the biggest boom that we've ever had in football. I mean, Ali Al Faraj did exist, he wasn't a mirage, but he never came to Portsmouth, and then he's another one that sold it on.
Most football fans don't want to worry about anything other than who's going to score a goal and what the result's going to be. And even at the worst times, some people will still bury their head in the sand and they just don't want to know. They just want to turn up next Saturday and watch their team. However, we reached a point where the vast majority of fans realised that actually this this time it was serious. And you know, it's the sort of emotions that it drives in people. You know, you see grown men cry at the thought of their football team disappearing. And I remember sitting with some of the guys that we were working with on the bid at the lower times when you thought maybe we've lost this, and you sit around and think, well, what are you going to do on a Saturday then? And it's conversations like that that give you the belief to get back out there and continue the fight and make sure that the football club does survive. And it doesn't even have to be in the Premier League. It just has to be ran in the right way by people that care about it.
They just started wading into anybody. No, what I know.
Just to explain the structure of how this and what the opportunities are for you to get involved in other things other than a bi-monthly meeting. The way it's structured is that
our model of ownership is really split into two main groups. And the important thing to make clear is that it's all supporters. So we created these two areas, really. The Supporters Trust shares, where an individual supporter could buy a single share for £1,000 or multiples up to £20,000 in the trust. Or other guys would pull together consortiums, groups of people that would chip in to make a £1,000 share and buy one between them. And then on the other side, we have what we call the presidents, and we have about a dozen presidents. And those guys were people that were all able to put in a minimum of £50,000 each. Some have put in, I think the most put in about £600,000.
There you go. Everyone were looking for something to do, some way of helping, some way of saving it. And these people came up, and I think one of them, the original trust members, was a lawyer, and they actually came up and said, look, this could work. We looked at other fan-owned places where part ownership and that looked abroad and said, look, it happens, it can work. And so there was no way I had £1,000 in the bank. However, I was determined, like a lot of other people, that the club was not going to disappear from our city. And so we just decided, right, we'll do what we can and we'll put in everything we can. So I talked to my wife and said, look, how much money have we got? And she said, not enough. And I said, well, it's got to go. So it's going, because I want this club here for the next generations. You know, for these young men here who support Pompey, they need a club. Otherwise, they're going to go and support Man United and Liverpool and things like that, which I'm not saying that's bad, but, you know, local club's a local club.
Come and see your beautiful shirt.
The next generation, he has a club because we bought it. He'll say thank you one day. He's just over one.
You all right? Want me to carry a Kindle? Obviously, the football club has a full-time staff, so those people are paid. The board members all have their own jobs, so it can be quite demanding, but it's a great honour and it's very rewarding. And at the end of the day, it's all about match day. It's all about today.
Hi, Joyce. You all right?
The Portsmouth fans not only received help from other clubs that were taken over by their fans, but they also worked with Supporters Direct. This is a unique organisation which supports fans in setting up democratic cooperatives, also known as supporters' trusts, in order to gain influence over their clubs.
We don't set up organisations to own clubs. We set them up in order to get influence. And the point of really, when you come down to how does it actually all work? How does this transparency and democracy and all that sort of stuff work? It works because if you look at a bank of people stood behind a goal or sat in a stand, there's enough talent there to run an organisation, believe you me. If it isn't there yet, they'll learn it. But the talent that's in the fan base is tremendous, and people don't realise that. And the only reason FC United of Manchester works is because they've taken that ethic to its limit. And they've shown that it works. And, you know, if you get in a position of Portsmouth, well, you don't have to run everything yourself anyway. That's not how it works. You employ people. You get a manager in, you get a stadium manager in, you get a coach to run the team.
Football's never been richer. £3,000 million plus in the professional game in this country. 80% of it concentrated in the top 20 clubs in the Premier League. Yet 14 of those clubs cannot make a profit. Over 70% of the clubs can't make a profit. That model's broken. In any other business, that model of ownership is broken. Yet you look at supporter-owned football clubs, and 99% of them are solvent, thriving, local football clubs that are properly connected and engaged with their supporters and also in their location. That's the model of the future. As a club, we're established as a community benefit society. What that means is we're a co-op. So every member of the club has one share and one vote in the club. So no matter how much money you put in, you're only ever going to have one vote. That membership and the total of that membership is then able to vote for the board and key decisions of the club. We've even developed a do-it-for-yourself finance scheme because we were told by the authorities that you cannot raise enough cash to run a football club. Where now we're seeing this football club, not 10 years old, raise almost £2 million in community shares. Banking and economic system is in chaos. There is, for ordinary people, very little hope being offered by the political parties. What's needed is for people to get together and do things for themselves. It's no accident that our supporters describe our kind of football as punk football, because punk music was about a rejection of the music that was being offered by the big music companies. Punk, doing it for yourself. This football club is about punk football.
When United walks away, it's 3 o'clock on a Saturday. We don't work for Sky Sports anymore. We don't work for Sky Sports anymore. Come on, go on, son! Go on, son!
They chose to walk away from a Premier League club that was highly successful over a matter of principle, and they stand for a tremendous, they're a tremendous encouragement to everyone, I think. And you have to, what they've done is they've picked apart what a football club is, and they said, we want the bits that matter to the local community, we want the bits that matter to the fans, and we won't put the bit on the pitch that happens twice a week maybe above everything else all the time, because you can't, because football clubs are not first 11s. I mean, there's it's a cliche, but it kind of stands as a beacon of hope for people. For a lot of people, they feel that it represents something that football misses, and some senses as well that kind of society misses, in a way that people rebel and don't do what they're told.
It's not like we're being filmed or anything. I got bored and I got fed up of wasting loads of money, and that sort of coincided with falling out of love of watching league football. Just simple things like you can't take flags into the ground unless they're fireproof, you can't take any poles into the ground. There's all these restrictions in place that stop you doing that. I've been thrown out from quite a few grounds for standing up. Nearly one down. The original idea was logo of the co-op. The cooperative movement was started in Rochdale, and because FC United is run and owned by its members, it's a cooperative as well.
We'll just change the letters.
Change the letters, use the same font-ish, like that, yeah. Use the same layout. I work for a place called Unicorn Grocery, which is in Manchester, in Chorlton, and that's a vegan cooperative. There's about 50 members, similar to FC United. To me, it should be more strange not to run a club like that, rather than strange to have a club that's run by the fans. It just makes common sense. It's the same way that, like, teams in Germany are run on the, they have to own at least half of the club so that no one else can take over it. It just seems like common sense, really. There you go.
I think people can look at Germany and think they've developed a successful football culture that still has cheap tickets for a lot of fans, that has huge crowds, still has that great closeness between the supporters and the clubs. And as Germany just won the World Cup, as Bayern Munich are, one of the best clubs in Europe, and they're still 75% owned by the members, and they're not seduced by all the money which could come in if the clubs are sold. And I think that is really admirable that the German football establishment has dug its heels in and maintained that.
Set my phone.
Who do you think owns football? Where is the ownership?
That's a good question.
Who owns
football?
Government.
But the fans do, but they're not in control of it at the same time. It's our game, but we don't own it. We don't have the physical ownership of it, but it's us.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if someone else is controlling
the people with the most money own football, but the people it means most to are normal fans who go to the games
but then
every
does
day.
that mean we own it?
We own it up here and in here, but not with this.
That's true, actually. That's a very good way of putting it. Like, you know,
the people with the most money own it, but it's the fans that make it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it should be the other way around. I think it gets to that point where more and more people are getting angry and pissed off with the whole state of things in general, not just in football, but in social situations as well, that you're going to have to start working together and helping each other. So
rise with your class, not from your class.
So it's just like, oh,
you do it, lads. You got a good strut on.
you feel like this is yours, this is ours. When I first started going, I kept saying, oh, you know, well, when they build their own ground or when they do this, but then after a while you start being like, oh, well, when we do it or when it's ours and stuff like that. Because you do feel like part of it, so.
When we return to Coventry, we hear the good news that Sisu have settled their conflict with ALS, the owners of the Ricoh Arena, and have now signed a new lease. As of now, Coventry City can play in the Ricoh Arena again. The fans are coming home.
Well, we can't stop smiling at the moment, can we? Pete's here as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, we can't stop smiling. We're talking about songs that we're going to sing. We're talking about banners. You know, people are all talking about Pete. He's actually taking the day off tomorrow. He's that excited. He's actually taking
the day off holiday for
taking the day to go to a game. I mean, what's all that about? When all this started, you know, the supporters wouldn't make any difference at all. But the protest, the march, the ribboning, everything to go with it, is all just been building up and building up, and it's just a great feeling. I think we've got plenty enough here. Yeah. I feel even more, I feel so proud to be from Coventry, not just the football club. I'm just proud to be a Coventry person today. Well, all week, isn't it?
Yay! Coventry!
None of us have been into protests at all. You know, we're just ordinary supporters who felt quite strongly about it. And that's why we've done the ribbons, we've stood on the hill, we've wrote lots and lots of letters, we've wrote to every council asking for their support, and that's how we came about.
And people have emailed constantly the Football League, the government, you name it, they've done it. And it's really basically to keep people thinking, you know, that we're not going to go away. And we wouldn't have gone away. I mean, I said last year, if we did one season of the Hill, I said, I'm not doing it again. I can't do it again because some of the days up there it was cold, it was wet and it was horrible.
Rain.
And then I said to Steve, I said, I'm not doing it next season. And then as soon as the season started again, I said, come on, we're going up the hill.
Originally, it was a key part of the protest, was all the ribbons in the city. But this time, it's for celebration.
What's going to happen now?
Well, I think in the short term, let's enjoy the beginning of the season. And then I think we have to communicate with, well, the right people have to communicate with our owners, and we need to find out what their plans are going to be for the future. And then we have to make some decisions ourselves on where we want to go. And from a Sky Blue Trust point of view, we would like to have some sort of fan representation on the board. Okay, we've won the battle, but the war's not over, you know.
No, it's not over yet.
There is a major philosophical problem with what should be a sport, which are institutions that we still call clubs. And a club is a member association, a club. You're a member of a club. Nobody owns a club. And the clubs still ask people to be loyal to them for life. And all their marketing is about loyalty and together and, being a fan for life, being a fan, not a customer. They're smart enough not to call them customers to their faces. And yet the club is actually a business that's owned by an investor, no previous connection to it, who saw some financial projections about how big the Premier League's going to be in the Far East or America when they crack the USA, and knows that they're going to make a fortune out of it. And to me, as a supporter, I thought they're seriously exploiting that sort of innocent loyalty that the supporters have.
16 months, all my friends are back tonight.
Don't want to spoil your big break.
No problem at all. It's still a quid.
£2.
The chief executive of the Football League said when Coventry went back to the Ricoh Arena that it was down to the fans that got them back to the Ricoh. It was down to him and the Football League board that they ever left the Ricoh in the first place, that they ever let Sisu go into and take over Coventry. He recognises how important the fans are, but then he's not willing to take that recognition and make the logical conclusion that the fans need to be involved in the governance of the game. When people such as him are running the game, then there needs to be a radical shake-up of the Football League, in my opinion.
Who's that then? Gaffer. All right, mate. You good? Who's that?
All right.
You're enjoying this stage now, aren't you?
Yeah. Enjoy it better when it gets finished. Tonight, as every Thursday night for the last 2 months, we'll be having a tour of the ground. So there'll be 20 odd of our supporters here having a look round at what their money has bought. And every single one of them that's been has been extremely proud. They've all seen the photographs, they've seen the videos online, they've seen the drawings, and now they can walk through it and see it. And very soon we'll be playing our first game in here, and people are quite rightly very proud of what they've done. You'll have to fight and get in early to get this seat, though. Everybody who comes here and stands on there goes, I'm standing here. If you want to sit down, you can sit down there. Yeah, exactly. So, but it's good. OK, so there's a bay at that end, there's a bay and a half at that end. That's because we stripped the concrete out of that, because we couldn't afford to put it in. But that steelwork's there to take the concrete when we have got the money to put it in. So those areas also will be able to take, flags. Think we spent your money wisely? Yeah? Good. You should be proud of it. You should tell people about it. So it's, we built this ourselves. There's not many football clubs can say that. This, when it's finished, is going to be £6 million that we've raised ourselves. Yes, we've had some grant funding, but most of it's come from our own resources. And we're developing a model here that people can use elsewhere. That if we can do this with just a small group of supporters that we've got, with 2,000-3,000 members, then any football club can be fan-owned. So that's what this is about. It's about developing a new way to showing the way as to how football can be better run. So you don't need some big rich benefactor, you don't need some, mega rich billionaire to come and build your football club.
We've proved that, haven't we?
Exactly, fans can do it themselves.
Yeah.
So, it's about spreading that message, and when people see it, they'll believe it. They won't believe it until they actually see it for themselves. So, well done, and thanks for coming. All right, cheers, thank you.
I think this is a really important story for people in Holland and all around Europe to understand, because I think that the Premier League is obviously, you know, pretty much the most successful league. I think it's the most watched league. It's, you know, it's gripping football, and they've got many of the big stars playing in England now, and it can seem very, very attractive. But I actually personally feel quite a sense of embarrassment that the model of selling clubs on the stock market or selling them to oligarchs or to investors has been kind of minted in England, and it's being seen as a model to take around Europe.
In the Netherlands, Vitesse Arnhem has a Russian owner, and ADO The Hague is still waiting for its new Chinese owner to transfer the promised amount to their bank account. Marcel van Roosmalen is a sports journalist who in 2014 wrote a book about Vitesse.
De club is natuurlijk niet meer wat het vroeger was. Vroeger was de club van de supporters, van de bevolking van Arnhem. Het gevoel op Vitesse is veel meer een bedrijf. Je kunt er niks aan doen. Het blijft jouw club, maar het is wel een kutclub geworden.
In 2010, Vitesse was the first Dutch club ever to be sold to a foreign owner. Since then, the club has changed owners many times.
Niet schrikken. Vitesse gaat vanaf nu de nieuwe eigenaar voor de landstitel.
Ja, het is één groot toneelstuk. Allemaal onzin. Waarom zou je een Nederlandse club willen hebben? Er zit niet echt een verdienmodel aan. Dus die wil je hebben of om er zogenaamd een opleidingsinstituut van te maken. Of je wilt het hebben om op andere manieren geld mee te verdienen. Maar het is in ieder geval nooit de bedoeling om de Champions League mee te gaan winnen.
Some disillusioned Vitesse fans have kept up a constant protest, but have as yet achieved nothing concrete.
Of we moeten echt stoppen met meedoen met het buitenland en accepteren dat iedereen weggaat. Maar er is steeds meer geld nodig en er zijn eigenlijk steeds minder goed betalende sponsors. Dus ik vrees dat steeds meer clubs in handen zullen vallen van particuliere eigenaren. Ik denk echt dat in de toekomst, bij wijze van spreken, een club als de Graafschap Europees voetbal wordt beloofd door een of andere gek. En dat is eigenlijk op zich natuurlijk komisch als het niet zo triest zou zijn. Maar ja, het mooiste is inderdaad het voorbeeld wat jij schetst, waar de supporters het echt voor het zeggen hebben. Maar goed, dat duurt nog wel even voor het in Nederland zover is. Dan moet het eerst nog verder naar de kloten worden geholpen. En dan misschien.
We'll never go, but we'll never feel down. We're gonna build our own ground. We're gonna build our own ground. You ready, kid? This is our club.